He told me he could get me a job modeling and that I could meet famous actors. He also promised to get me a red Corvette, so that sounded really good to me. And I agreed to run away with him. I was 14. The first thing that we did was we went to this motel. He said that his friend was waiting there for us. He left me with her saying she was going to get me ready. That's when I started to catch on. She dyed my hair and she put makeup on. And she gave me a red dress to wear and a pair of high heel shoes. Once the red dress came up, I started to think maybe this was leading towards something sexual. I was scared. Within the first 12 hours of running away, I was in Atlantic City on the streets having men forced on me. It was between 5 and 10 guys. I'll never forget the first guy. He was an old man. He told me that I reminded him of his granddaughter. Once this started happening, I really didn't think there was any going back. When we went out for the second night, fate stepped in, and I got arrested. And then they sent me home. I was forced into the sex industry. I was a teenage sex slave. I'm lucky that I made it out after only 36 hours. I think if I wasn't arrested, I wouldn't be here today. So if you think that this can't happen to you, think again.
Thanks for being with us, Holly. So it happened 20 years ago. When you lie awake at night, close your eyes, how often do you think about those days? How do you feel when you remember them?
Well, I'm in a really good place now, but for a solid 15 years, I struggled afterwards. I struggled with low self-esteem, and I struggled with depression. I had attempted suicide right after I was picked up, and I went into a psychiatric facility for like 30 days, but I still didn't get the specialized care that I needed to understand that it wasn't my fault, and I didn't know that this happened to other people. I had no idea.
There are going to be a lot of folks watching you who are going to see you and them. What advice would you give them?
For girls who are angry and maybe suffering with low self-esteem, they feel like they're not as good as their friends, all I can say to them is that things get better. Life isn't just middle school and high school. Girls that have been through it, I just want to tell them that this doesn't define them, that they're not alone. There are other girls out there. I didn't know that it happened to other girls, and it's really important that girls know that they're not alone.
Because I would think that guilt and shame would define the experience, but it's not your fault, as you said. And at age 14, you deserve to be supported and propped up by society, not taken advantage of. So Kevin Perkins is joining us. He's the director of the FBI's Innocence Lost Project. He's working to stop domestic sex trafficking in the U.S. So, I mean, Kevin, I think most of us here are outraged by what we're seeing in our own backyard. What's the FBI doing to protect our daughters?
The FBI, we're using our resources in partnership with state and local law enforcement across the country to attack these predators, to go after these people and to lock them up. But law enforcement is just one small portion of it. It is a holistic, universal approach to these issues. But ours is the first step to rescue these children off the street.
So I'm just going to give some numbers we've already touched on a little bit. 100,000 boys and girls. It's really hard to estimate. 100,000 boys and girls working as sex slaves in the U.S. I mean, how many arrests have we had in this area?
I think since we really began to focus on this initiative in 2003, 2004, we've convicted 850 individuals of these types of crimes. The level of these convictions, 7 of these individuals have been sentenced to life without parole, federal time. They will be in prison for the rest of their lives. And that's a good thing.
So how can folks who are watching the show right now play a role in making sure Holly Bella and other young girls aren't taken advantage of?
Oh, the first thing we're doing is by being here right now and talking about it, making the public aware that this is a problem. But that's step one. Step two is for the parents. There's some warning signs parents and that can look for out there on this. First of all, I have adolescent daughters. Every day there are mood swings up and down, but look for the things that are out of the norm. You look for different clothing. You look for, the next step would be gifts, a new cell phone, clothing, earrings, whatever, jewelry, things like this. Where did you get this? How did this happen? New and older friends. Who is that calling you? Who are you hanging out with? And then finally, and the most important one is the crisis point, is if your child is coming home, unexplained bruises, injuries, tattoos, things along these lines, burns, that's when you need to engage with your medical professionals. That's when you need to engage with your law enforcement community and pull your child out of this.
You know what I'm stunned by? I don't know, from your story and others. These are happening in open areas. Because it's, I would think it would be safer if I was a kid, walking in a mall, in a bus stop, on my way to school, walking down the street. If I'm approaching that environment, you have an extra layer of safety.
It was a nice mall. I mean, it was in a good neighborhood. It wasn't a bad neighborhood by any means. It was a mall that we went to every weekend.
Can you imagine it's happening today? Someone is happening today in America.
And these individuals, they're predators, and they're master manipulators. They look for the person with the low self-esteem. They'll go through a bus stop area and they'll look for someone who looks like they've run away. They may be hungry. They need shelter. And when a child is in that type of a state, they're going to go to anyone who gives them that comfort, and they'll draw them in that way.
Listen, a lot of these kids, they seem invisible, hidden from the outside world. How can we get this crisis out of the shadows? I mean, your show does a beautiful job of telling the emotional story. But what needs to happen for us to be able to be open about this?
Well, from this day forward, I hope that when we see these girls out on the streets, we don't think of them as prostitutes any longer. Rather than thinking that they are out there doing this voluntarily, we need to recognize that these are victims. And unfortunately, a lot of these girls, when they're picked up, they're treated as criminals.
You know what I heard that sort of caught my attention today? I'm just going to share it with everybody. I'm reminded to keep telling my kids I love them. Because what I don't want to have happen is for the pimp to be able to say, I love you. And I'm the only person who loves you.
But these pimps are so smart, and they literally try to replace that father figure, which is why they have their girls call them daddy. And so for the fathers out there, it's so important to reinforce that in your daughters regularly.
Thank you very much for all participating. It's a wonderful show, Lisa. You can tune into Our America with Lisa Ling on Sundays at 10 p.m. on the OWN Network. It's a wonderful program. If you want to report a missing or exploited child, we want more information, call 1-800-THE-LOST. If we pay attention, we can turn this around. For more, you can go to DrOz.com. I'll be right back.